In November 1956, the world witnessed a moment that quietly ended an empire. It didn't happen with explosions or a battlefield defeat, but with a single phone call. The British Empire, the most powerful humanity had ever seen. An empire that ruled nearly a quarter of the planet, whose currency had dominated global trade for over a century, was brought to its knees in just 11 days. The United States delivered a blunt ultimatum: end your military operation in Egypt immediately, or we will destroy your currency. We will sell every British pound we hold. We will block your emergency loan from the International Monetary Fund, and we will let your economy collapse in front of the world. Britain had no choice. Within hours, the empire surrendered. Not to an enemy army, but to debt. To financial weakness. To a reality it had been refusing to accept for decades. That moment became known as the Suez Crisis, and it marked the true end of British global dominance. But here's what history books rarely explain. Britain didn't fall because of one crisis. Britain fell because it spent decades making the same mistakes America is making right now. And those mistakes may finally be coming due. To understand how Britain collapsed, you first need to understand how it rose. In the 19th century, the British pound wasn't just a currency. It was the system. International trade was settled in pounds. Central banks stored their reserves in pounds. Global contracts were written in pounds. This gave Britain extraordinary power. It could print money to fund wars, borrow at extremely low interest rates, and run trade deficits year after year. Why? Because the world needed the pound more than Britain needed discipline. But beneath the surface, the foundation was cracking. By the late 1800s, the United States had already surpassed Britain as the world's largest economy. American factories were outproducing British factories. American innovation was accelerating. American wealth was growing faster. Yet, the pound remained dominant. Why? Because of inertia. The global system was built around the pound, and changing it felt inconvenient. So the world kept using a currency tied to a weakening empire. Then came World War I. Britain borrowed staggering amounts to finance the war. When it ended, Britain was no longer the world's greatest creditor. It had become one of the world's largest debtor nations, owing enormous sums, especially to the United States. This was the moment Britain should have adjusted. It should have reduced spending, scaled back ambition, and accepted its new reality. Instead, it chose denial. In 1925, Britain returned to the gold standard at the pre-war exchange rate, as if nothing had changed, as if the empire was still as strong as before. To maintain this illusion, interest rates were kept painfully high. Economic growth was strangled. Unemployment soared. Exports became uncompetitive. And still, Britain spent like a superpower. It funded global military bases, imperial commitments, and prestige projects all through debt. The cracks widened in the 1930s. Speculators attacked the pound. In 1931, Britain was forced off the gold standard, and the pound lost nearly 30% of its value almost overnight. Yet the illusion survived. Britain forced its colonies to hold pounds, artificially propping up a failing system. This is where the parallel with America becomes impossible to ignore. Today, the dollar is sustained by force rather than fundamentals, through the petrodollar system, military dominance, and global financial pressure. But systems built on force don't last forever. After World War II, Britain was financially exhausted. Its debt exceeded the size of its entire economy. And still, its leaders refused to accept decline. Then came 1956. The Suez Crisis exposed the raw truth. America weaponized Britain's currency, blocked emergency financing, and forced a humiliating withdrawal. In 11 days, an empire collapsed. Not because of its enemies, but because its creditors finally called the bluff. And now, the United States is walking the same path. Rising debt, massive military overreach, and a reserve currency sustained by confidence rather than discipline. Britain believed the rules no longer apply to them. America believes the same. History shows what happens next. Empires decline slowly, then all at once. America's Suez moment is coming. It might arrive through a debt crisis, a geopolitical shift, or a sudden loss of confidence in the dollar. But when it arrives, it will expose what has been true for years. Power built on debt is temporary, and denial only makes the final collapse faster. This isn't fear-mongering, this is history. And this is Legacy of Money. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We dive deep into the financial forces shaping our world every week. Thanks for watching.